Hi, Laura.
Hey, how you doing, John?
Okay,
Yay.
thanks.
Are you still working for IBM?
I am, yeah, I'm full-time, very busy.
Wow. So are you working from home these days or you have to go travel
Yeah,
someplace?
well, they haven't dropped the hammer yet, so I'm staying home as long as I can.
Yeah, I've heard I've heard rumors that they may be asking more people to come in. They made the decision to ask managers to come in, but I'm not sure if your organization is the same as the ones I'm familiar with. So you may still be safe and hopefully so.
Well, managers are mandated. It's a condition of employment, 3 days a week.
Correct. And then I heard that they might decide that employees was the same, but in any event, I'm I have a last day now because I came back as a contractor. I don't know if you knew that, but I was I wasn't I was a full-fledged IBMer. I retired officially in 2021 and came back as a contractor and I'll be not doing that anymore as of March 31st. So
Wow, that's soon.
well, it is soon, but I'm a contractor. I knew it was my decision to retire and come back as
Yeah,
a contractor, and I knew that that was part of what they do. They have a tough quarter and they say all contractors go, and there you go. But I've been planning for retirement for a long time, so it's
yeah,
not really retired. I have plenty to do for the town of Woodstock. There's no shortage of activities. So hi
great.
Jude. Hi Jude, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, good.
Okay,
Keeping busy.
it might just be us tonight.
Right. Well, I did see Connor's email and I did try to call Joe and it went right to voicemail.
He told me he was on a plane.
Ah, okay. Well, I think we can have a work session anyway, and I think that's helpful and healthy. And I see we're at 6:32. So we can have a work session. It won't be an official meeting and we won't be we won't be finalizing any decisions. But what I can tell people who are interested is as there's Sarah Yanish. Let me admit Sarah here. Um, so I am keeping an eye on people who need to be added. So in any event, so Melanie did put the STR survey results as well as the summary that I showed at our last meeting, which was a month ago. And so we didn't meet, as people know, we didn't have the second meeting in January. There's a bit of confusion. I guess I thought it was scheduled, but it turned out it wasn't scheduled. And so I did fix that. And now our meetings for the rest of the year are on the schedule. I didn't check every month on the calendar, but at least I made sure Melanie had all the dates and so we're good on that. So anyway, but Melanie did also put on the town website and what the spreadsheet looks like. And I'm keeping,
Where
uh,
did she put it?
well, she put it under the ZRC,
Okay.
um, in the ZRC section, because if you go on the website in the left-hand navigator, there's the boards and committees. And if you look up boards and committees, zoning revision committee is, as you might guess, the last on the list, even after the ZBA. So we are number, the end, yay. So, and anyway, and that's where it is. And so what I did with the spreadsheets, since people's, well, I will share my screen and let me just show people kind of what they look like. There's the share button. And I'll share the whole screen. Oh, you know what? Before I do share the whole screen, I am gonna, every now and then it's smart to get rid of things that really shouldn't be shared, like the Zoom information, which shouldn't be sharing that. Okay, now we'll share. Share the whole thing. And let me go back to, there we go. So this is what it's going to look like for anybody that goes in and takes a look at this is the real thing. I'm trying to move this so I can kind of see it a little better. That's better. So I added a tab. So in the two spreadsheets that you'll see if you go into the zoning revision committee page, you will see the two, well, you'll see a third, there's an STR recommendations, which was from 2023. But the two that Melanie added are the other two files that are in there. And each file has a tab that tells you about it and a file that has the actual information, because our website has a limitation that Melanie can't put a description and then the file. All she can do is put the file and you click on it. So that's why I put the tab. And so we're looking at the introduction tab here. And then that's the tab that tells you about the spreadsheet. And then this is what the spreadsheet looks like. And if you go on over here, the only personally identifiable information is column A, which is the index, which pretty much is what order did you take the survey. So that's the index. This does have totally raw data. So it includes, so I added some columns that were explanatory. Any column that had data, when people put data in the survey, the data is identical to what they put in the survey. So I did not alter any data information at all, but I did add information to make it more understandable. So for example, I added, when of course I deleted any column that said, who are you, where do you live, your address, your name, those went away. And there were some columns that I think the tool added just because, status of the survey is, submitted. I took out some things that the tool put in, but I did not remove any rows of data and I did not alter any fields of data that anybody entered. So that is all, this is all raw data, but the difference is you can't tell who entered it. So I did leave the index number, which is the order that they did it. I added this dupe or a non-column because just in case people are interested, there was some information, and then we did not go through and make sure that we didn't verify everybody that took the survey. We didn't go through and say, call them up and did you really take the survey? We didn't do any of that. But in some cases, we're confident we knew by the name and the address, looks like a real person. In some cases, they put C and I live on Xena Road. Well, you'll never figure out who that is because who the heck is C, and Xena Road has a lot of people on it. So if that was the case, I wrote a non in this dupe or a non column if we really had no idea who took it. And then if it looks like a dupe, there were about 8 that we said they look like a dupe. So I did just note in here, it looks like a dupe to us, just so anybody looking here could quickly pick out rows that look like a dupe. But I didn't remove any rows, but if you wanted to do your own analysis, you could. And I've already kind of told you who we think is a dupe. So in any event, I also added color coding. So if somebody answered yes, I made it green. If somebody answered no, I made it blue. If somebody gave a disagree strongly or mostly, I made it blue. If they said that they agree or, strongly or mostly agree, I made it, a shade of green. And then I added this column F, because if I wanted to put things in numerical, in an order that made sense, let me just kind of mark down one thing. Okay, if I wanted to put things in an order that made sense based on, because I also wanted to, besides, I sorted by are you a Wichita resident, and within Wichita resident, I sorted between the owner operated and STR, and within that, I wanted to pick one of the columns that kind of gave a sense of, do you like owner occupied, or the non-owner occupied. The non-owner occupied seems to have the most concern. So I also sorted on non-owner occupied, but it didn't sort in order because mostly agree is followed by mostly disagree, and neutral follows that, and then mostly disagree follows that, and strongly disagree. So you got your agrees and disagrees kind of all jumbled up. So I added a numerical value so that the disagrees would be together and the agrees would be together. And that was the numerical value was just added so that you could kind of sort it. And the reason I did that is because over here, when you see the comments, you're kind of seeing, things that are kind of similar together. When you read comments, you might expect them to be similar because you're lumped together now. The people that they're Wichita residents, they don't have an STR and they don't like owner occupied, you're kind of seeing those comments together to kind of absorb them together. So you're absorbing sets of comments together. And then just scrolling down here, eventually you'll see there's a yellow line. And so I put the yellow line to kind of separate out So if all you're doing is you're just looking at comments, you know, when you hit the yellow line, now you're in a different group of people because the people up here that disagree, you know, non-owner occupied are good for which type people that disagree are here. You hit the yellow line, you know, you might see comments of a different flavor because now you're into the neutrals. And I think I didn't put one after the neutrals. Well, yes, I did, and then agree. So I did do that. So anyway, I put these the yellow lines so that if you're looking at comments, it may make it easier. They may make it easier for you to be absorbing, you know, again, because you'll know when you hit the yellow line, you might expect comments to be different because now you're with people that have a different mindset. And so, but if anybody that doesn't like, again, I did not change any of the data. And column P is there twice because I left this column. This is the original position of this non-owner occupied, but I made a copy of that column and put it over here. So if you look here, you'll see these are the columns with the yellow top that I used for sorting. Of course, I didn't actually use E once I put the numerical in, but the numerical came from column E. So in any event, these were sorted, but I still kept this column. I had it repeated where it originally was. So in case you're looking through there and you say, well, what order do people see the questions? It's kind of in the order you're seeing here. And you're seeing what order people saw that question because I left a copy there. So that's kind of a long description about what I did with the file. But the most important things, again, are I removed all the personally identifying information and I did not alter any cell that had data that people entered. I did not alter any data at all. I just added, you know, color coding that may help you. If you don't like it, you can just take the color out because you can download this file. If you don't like the numerical value added there for sorting, just take that column out. You know, so anybody, the whole reason for making this available is everybody can do what you want with the data. Again, I try to do things that would be helpful, but if you don't find them helpful, you can take out what and the introduction tab tells you exactly what I did to make it more usable. I added this, that, and that. I added separator columns. The other thing that I did is, what you'll find, these columns R, T, V, and X that have a period in them. The whole purpose is if you don't do that, then the comment runs over. So if you're trying to see what are all the answers people gave to column U, if I didn't have that period there, this information in column S would have run in there and you can't easily see that you didn't have any answer here because this data would have run over. By putting the period there, it chops it. And if you want to see it, you just put your cursor on the cell and there it is up top here. So you can easily see it, but the periods help you know where you had blanks because otherwise you got data just running over into what you see here. And that's just to make it easier to see where the blanks are. So again, it's all stuff that I thought was helpful, but I was clear on the introduction tab, what I added and why. And again, it was just to make it more usable. And if you don't like it, you just take out what I added. Because I've said it, you know, color coding is easy to take out. You just do a file all and you make it all no color and you can take it out. And then I've told you here everything that I added to make it easier to use the file. And if you don't like it, you can take it out and do your own thing. And I've even said, yeah, these are the column headers that I removed. So anyway, because these things didn't like tags, version, submitter, status, you know, really none of that. Yeah, I think that was just added by the tool, but it's not data that people answered. So I took out stuff that was not data that people answered. I left every bit of data that anybody provided is in there, except for their name and their address. Okay, any questions from anybody about the file? Again, the file, oh, there's two files. That's the one file. That's the file with the actual data. Does anybody have any questions about that file? The other file that got put there is, let me, survey comments, community, hold on a sec. Let me go to that one. Is that the one? Nope. Oh, this, I'm building a file. I'm looking through the comments myself. I'm looking through it. Oh, I think this is it over here. There we go. This is the file that I went through in great detail at the last meeting. And so I'm not going to go through it in great detail again because, you could pull up the recording and listen to it. But when I had Melanie, this is the other thing that Melanie posted. When I had Melanie post this, what I did do is I added a summary. So again, here's a tab that tells you more about what's in there. So if you're pulling this one down, so the two files Melanie added for STRs for this related to the survey, each have two tabs. One gives you a little information and the other is the actual data. And so this is the summary of how many responses we had. Take out the duplicates. Here's Amanda's left. Woodstock residents, who has an STR, who doesn't. Here's some numbers, non-Woodstock residents, STRs and a number. And then I kind of went in great detail at the last meeting, looking at these different categories, all responders, looking at all the questions, what percentage. And in this case, I had combined mostly agree and strongly agree, and I combined mostly disagree and strongly disagree. So you can see if you look at just everybody, where the numbers fall. You look at just Woodstock residents, where do they fall? You take non-Woodstock residents, where does it fall? You then you break it down even further, Woodstock residents that do not have an STR, ones that do have an STR, where do the answers fall? And then if we go all the way down here, I put the full questions because in some cases in the column headers, the question was too long to have the whole thing in the column header. So I abbreviated in some cases, but if you want to see the whole question, you look at the bottom. So that's the other file that is now up on the town website. And that's the analysis that I had done that I brought to the last ZRC meeting. And again, anybody can take a look at it now because it's posted. So any questions about STR files?
Yeah, I'm going to the committee website on the town website, and one of the documents downloads fine, and then the other one, I'm not sure if it's downloading right. It comes up as gibberish for me.
Does it?
Yeah, the one that's captioned Woodstock Community Feedback Summary.
Well, the summary is the one that I'm showing here. So that one did not,
It-
did it download? It's downloaded and you're seeing gibberish?
Yeah, when I click on it to download, it comes, well, even before, you know what? It doesn't even click to download it. Oh, wait, another, I'm gonna go, wait a second, because one of them seemed to download fine, and now it's looking at gibberish too. So let me see if it's on my end.
So did you say the one that had the full data, that one downloaded okay?
Yes, I believe so. Let me see what, that one is,
Because you should see two tabs at the bottom and one tab should say introduction. The other one is the
oh,
tab.
one's tab says summary and one tab is the full thing. Although I'm not seeing the introduction neither.
Well, yeah, if you're seeing one that says summary, because
Yeah.
there's two files, well, there's three files all together, but one of them says 2023 and that's, we're not looking at that one right now.
Right, yeah.
So the three files, ignore the one that says 2023 for now. And of the two files, the one that's the summary data, the one that has, I'm just trying to look here. Hang on a sec. Yeah, Woodstock SDI community feedback. It says no dupe summary. I've taken out the duplicates and that's the summary. If you're looking at that file that says summary at the end, then it will have a summary tab at the bottom.
Right, that one downloaded okay.
Okay, so you look in the numbers and the other one you're saying did not download okay.
Let me check again. Yeah, I'm having trouble. Let me refresh the whole page. I don't want to give bad information here. Yeah, no, when I click on it, it's just computer code. Let's see. If I open it a different way.
And I never tried downloading it from the website, so
Yeah.
I just saw it was there and figured it was good.
Yeah, it's weird. It's not usually when I click on a document, right? Like when I click on the other one, the PDF, it downloads fine.
Well, neither one should have been a PDF. They
No,
were
no,
both
when I'm looking at that 2023 thing, just as an example to
Mhm.
downloading it.
Right, the two I posted were Excel spreadsheets.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and one of them seems I have, and the other one, let me try one more time. No. Huh. I'm on a Mac. I'm gonna keep playing with it. Let me see. I don't want to take a lot of time if it's just something I'm doing weird.
Yeah, okay. But it's good to know if it's not working. So the other thing that I am doing though, and I was, so I haven't completed that, but I've started looking at the comments and I started, and just looking over here. So I added, and it seemed like the best way to do this was through spreadsheets. So I was going through the comments of people, because again, we have these different categories. You know, if you have a Woodstock resident with no STR, and I thought the best of all the other questions to just, that would might give us like answers in different categories was, if you don't like non-owner occupied, you know, I was starting to go through the comments from people that don't like non-owner occupied. And then I was going to go through the next, and that's the biggest group of respondents. And then I was going to go through and say, well, about the people that don't have, that have no STR, but they don't dislike, you know, maybe they like them or they're neutral. And then if you're Wichita resident, you have an STR, I was going to go through that. So I haven't gotten to all these comments yet, but I have started to, and let me just fill in the X's here, because this is a work in progress that you're watching here.
Laura,
yes.
forgive me for interrupting.
Yeah.
I just went and tried to look at those two files and I see gibberish also, and I'm on a Lenovo PC.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
wonder if those files have the correct file type .xlsx. It says, I can't tell by looking at it whether it does, but
Okay. So I'll have to follow up
So,
on
yeah.
that. I didn't try to download them. I just saw they were there and said, yay. I will have to see what, I'll have to go follow up on that. I'll have to download them myself and then find out why they didn't, because I sent them, you know, I sent them, but there we are. So, so what I will do though is, so far what I've got, I'm doing this in a spreadsheet also, which is not posted anywhere because it's a work in progress, to go through comments and just say, you know, and I haven't finished even going through the comments of this set of people, but you know, how the people that are not Woodstock residents, they are Woodstock residents, some have an STR, some don't have an STR, some don't dislike NOO, meaning they're neutral or they like them, and some of them, you know, do dislike the non-owner occupied. So in any event, just to kind of, and some of these things aren't a surprise, and eventually I'll sort these by, and I'm saying, is it a positive statement, a negative statement, or balanced in terms of STRs? And we're getting some interesting answers. I think. Sarah, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I can actually view the documents, but I'm doing this through my phone.
Oh,
So,
wow.
Yeah, which
Huh.
is kind of backwards.
That-
But yeah, I can view them, guys. So
yeah, yay. Should be able to do it on a Lenovo.
I don't know.
And like John, I'm using a Lenovo. So there we
This
are.
this is old iPhone. Yeah.
So, yep. Well, thank you, Sarah. But
All
I'll
right.
try to download the STRs on my laptop and just see whether I have any luck.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right. So I just want to run through some, this is interesting so far, some comments I've got. So comments that I've read so far, and again, I've only gotten to, you know, I'm going to be looking at all of them, but I've only gotten to the Woodstock residents that don't have an STR, that dislike non-owner occupied, but even so, they still have good things to say about STRs. So they talk about, you know, friends and people, you know, people that are kicked out of their space, so it can be a short-term rental. So that's definitely a negative. And I haven't indicated here how many times I've seen the same thing, but I can tell you that's a common thing. A positive, people, including seniors, retirees, and artists, make money. They can pay the bills and taxes to be able to stay here. So there's a definite positive to STRs in general, not necessarily non-owner occupied, but people are saying that people can stay here because they get the extra income. Another positive, people get to experience in Woodstock before they move here. And I'm going to fix my typo again. I'm not copying and pasting these responses. I'm just putting in, here's what I saw them say. A negative, people that lose community because in quality of life, because you don't have any neighbors that you know. And that's definitely a pervasive thing. STR profits can be large. Well, gee, that's good, I guess, if you're making the money. Positive, people can make money cleaning and managing STRs. Not only the person that has the STR, but I know somebody who, her job is, she's a cleaner. That's her profession. She cleans, and she's got more work because of the STRs. So that's a good thing for her. A negative, STRs only benefit the rich. I think in terms of who's going to stay there, it's only the people that have money that can stay there, apparently. A good thing, STRs attract tourists who are good for businesses, restaurants in town. So that's a plus. Some STRs are okay. Woodstock and BAL is balanced. It wasn't really positive. It wasn't negative. And that just shows balanced. Some STRs are okay. Woodstock has a long history of welcoming summer people. True. Too many STRs are bad. So I called that balanced. A negative, the large party houses are bad neighbors, that's for sure. STR owners only here part-time is still good in the community. So somebody had a neighbor who had an STR, but they're there part-time and they're good in, they help the community when they're there. So that was a positive. STR is a bad use of property that could be a long-term rental. And I'm fixing my typo here while we're here. There we go. Another negative, STRs are bad for long-term renters, home buyers, and the community. So it's interesting. On the one hand, people say, hey, I can, using a short-term rental, I can be in Woodstock and realize, oh, I do want to buy here. So in that case, it's good for a home buyer, but then somebody else said was bad for home buyers. I'm not sure why they're bad for home buyers, but in any event, they're certainly bad for long-term renters. I get that. And bad for the community. I get that too.
Laura,
Yes,
Laura.
go ahead.
so they're bad for home buyers in the sense that they inflate the prices of houses.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna add that here in parentheses. Gotcha. Good, very good point. Thanks. And again, the reason why I started to do this exercise is so that I can provide something, but again, except that you can't get to it except for Sarah on her phone. But the idea is to post the file with all the data so people can pull their own assessment. But this is, I'm trying to do my homework and do an assessment. Okay. So STRs allow some Woodstock residents to stay in Woodstock. So this is interesting because a big negative is people that get kicked out because the owner wants to make it an STR, which would be the non-owner occupied, but the owner occupied, I'm translating this to say owner occupied is good because then some Woodstock residents can stay in Woodstock because they can afford to pay the bills. A negative, there were many people that just said, we see no positive impact. We asked, what's the positive impact? And they didn't just leave it blank. They said none. They answered no. So there was a number of people that said no, that they don't see positive impacts. Can make money when you're out of town. So if you're a positive, if you're a homeowner, is you're out of town, you're not in your house anyway, you do an STR, you can make a little money. So that's a positive. Positive, some STRs are not causing issues, so that's good. A negative, we need enforcement of STR laws. That's a law thing, that's an enforcement thing, not a written law thing. Drinking, only one person said this, but yeah, they had a neighbor that was an Airbnb and they had a drunk guest, didn't know whose property was whose, and fell asleep in their lawn. Tried to knock on the door, tried to get in, couldn't, fell asleep on the lawn. So that's an odd thing, but it can happen. And this, I really liked this. This was a nice idea, I thought. Home share Woodstock is an alternative way for homeowners to earn money to stay in Woodstock. And that's an insightful statement because people are saying, hey, I can STR out a room, I can short-term rent a room. And this person has said, people that want to make a little more money, you actually could get a long-term renter because that's what home share is all about, is somebody who, for whatever reason, would like to bring on a renter that can help them stay in their home. And then you have renters that don't have a lot of money, and the home share is kind of a win-win, is this person that needs help and they can't really stay in their home because they need help, well, they get somebody who's more able, who moves in, who gets a good rate for their rent, and they can maybe help out. And this person who is perhaps elderly doesn't actually have to leave their home. That's what home share is all about. You have somebody that has space, but they need help, and you got somebody that needs a place to stay, and it matches them together. So I thought that was a pretty cool statement, because home share, people are talking very positively about it. We've had some matches that have really worked, but I thought that was a really cool comment that came in. Anyway, the next thing that I noticed, prospector STRs are bad. And I'm fixing my typos here as we go along. Yeah. Yeah, prospect STRs are bad. And in fact, that's like the corporation. And I'm gonna add the word corporation because that was the next comment that I read, but then I didn't get a chance to add it in here. Okay. So if the corporation STRs are bad, community member STRs are good. So that's a balanced statement that I thought. And negative STRs charge, and sorry for, anyway, I was typing stuff in furiously and I got partway through and I'm just cleaning up as I go along. STRs charge, I still didn't fix it. There we go. That's fixed. That's what the comment had said. STRs charge luxury rates so the regular person can't afford them, which I think is the same thing as this. STRs only benefit the rich, so I may actually make those the same. I may combine those. And let's make a note here. And 23. Yeah, because those are kind of the same comment. So anyway, I just
Would you please, I'm sorry, please excuse me. Would you please go back and just read those two statements against each other again, just one more time as you're combining them? Thank you.
Yeah. So, oh, I'm sorry. You want the two that I was just referring to?
Yeah, if you're combining them just to hear it.
Yeah,
more.
I will probably
Thank you so much.
combine it. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
just
I
showing
understand.
Yeah, it's a work in progress. I'm just showing what I had, but I wasn't trying to say the same thing twice, because then when I look at the different categories of this one is a
I
Woodstock.
absolutely understand. I just wanted to hear, it's so close. I just wanted to hear it one more time as
Yeah.
I'm listening.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, STRs only benefit the rich was the one comment on row 8. And then STRs charge luxury rates so the regular person can't afford them. So I might just put a, comma only benefits the rich. So that's how I would combine them. Because it's saying the same thing. And as I look at the different categories, we'll see what the different categories believe. So, but I thought, anyway, so I just wanted to share, because and again, when we get this file working for everybody, this will just be my take on what it is, but people can provide, well, yeah, you missed this or you missed that. I'm happy to
I understand.
To add, is if people think I missed something, I'm happy to add it. But I just want to kind of, as a member of the zoning revision committee, do my homework and say, well, here's the trends of what we're seeing. And I think it's kind of interesting. I mean, that the home share as an alternative was a really cool thing for somebody to bring up. So that was, that was a surprise. A lot of these weren't really a surprise, but that was a surprise. But it's nice to see how these flow out, because people say it better than somehow, having a list of what people are saying like this is, I think, going to be helpful to the process. So anyway, so I'm going to make a note here. Yeah, so sharing the comments I reviewed so far, but of course that process is still going on. Okay, so and we're still we still don't have a quorum, but I just wanted to, for the people that joined, I wanted to show what's available. I've got to go find out what's up with it being gibberish when you download it. That's an odd thing. But what I can do, let me stop sharing for just a moment, and then let me go find the website, and I'm going to see whether I can download it.
Or for the people who tried to get in and found it that way, just in code, I don't know if they went in the same way I did, but I went in through the homepage. I did, committees, commissions, whatever it is on the left. And then I clicked on ZRC, and then it's those first two lines,
Right. So,
Yeah, all right, so so I just followed your instructions and that's what I got. I guess
Yeah.
if you're on an actual computer,
Well, I'm sure-
I tried it on my iPhone. It didn't work. The weird thing is,
Yeah.
one of them did work once for me, and I've been able to look at it, and then it
Yeah,
doesn't.
I heard you say
Well,
that,
well,
yeah.
so here we are, and this is what we're talking about. So I'm gonna try and you can watch me do it and I'll see if I have any success. So I'm
Okay.
under boards and committees, and then
Mhm.
if I look under boards and committees, we'll go back out. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, zoning revision committee, that's us.
Yep.
And let me come back down here, and I'm just gonna see what happens. Oh, look at that.
And it's so weird, and I'm still getting a proper screen. It's so weird. I see your full Excel sheet.
You need to laugh.
Lucky me.
And you
Lucky
guys
me.
didn't
I
find
don't
it.
know. It's tonight I'm the lucky one, guys. I don't know.
Oh, holy camole, that's awful.
If I win anything today, it's an Excel sheet. 2 of them. Bingo. Bingo,
Oh my
bingo.
God. This is amazing. You know what the heck? I mean, I sent the files to I sent the files to Melanie and said, can you post them? And look at that.
It's my love for Melanie, and also, I have catching up to do. I missed the last meeting, so you guys were probably all present, and now I get to do my backup work. Thanks.
Yeah,
I had
there you
COVID.
go. Yeah, and you know, and we in fact did not have a meeting on January 27th.
Right.
And the reason for that was, the meeting was scheduled for the 13th, and I just assumed it was scheduled for the 27th, but it wasn't. And then after realizing that it wasn't on the calendar, I went back and said, well, didn't I send an email to Melanie? And I didn't see an email. So we're set for the year now. We are set for the year now, but
Yeah.
yeah. And we're only having one meeting in May because the fourth Monday is on Memorial Day. And there was another month. Oh, I think Thanksgiving, we're not going to have it Thanksgiving week. We're not going to have it Christmas week. And then, I forget if there's another one we're not having it, but in any event, there might have been a holiday somewhere, but in any event, we're the second and fourth Monday, except for a couple of exceptions.
And I saw David Eckroth tonight because I went in to grab an agenda. Just because it's still, so I know there's no public be heard. I know there's no quorum tonight. We're not official, whatever, but just, I understand there's a structure and they have no Zoom. They haven't had their minutes since 2020. This is Zoom exclusive and anyone can watch it. That's awesome. So I can catch up on this meeting that I missed last time,
yeah.
right?
Yes,
Because
you
I've
can.
been like a puddle of sickness for
Oh,
like
dear.
months.
Oh, dear.
But yeah, but now I can catch up because we have Zoom. Yay.
Yep.
But
Yep.
but that civic design meeting, I can never catch up because they haven't had minutes since 2020. It's like, what?
And
So
and
they were
they're-
so confused, and also like no reason to get up in arms. And I'm like, well, how do I find out?
Yeah, and they're in person, I think. So let me
Exactly, that's in person only, and I needed the agenda for that, but I would love it. I would love it if we can organize as a town to not have meetings staggered a half hour apart. I'm saying this to this committee, because just working together, that we don't have like, an in-person only meeting that I can't get information about with a Zoom only meeting that I'd love to participate in and like want to know what's going on. There's so many moving parts. But I can't do both. I can't be in both places. Plus I'm disabled. I can't drive.
Yeah, and I don't know
right?
what the answer to that is going to be because each committee kind of does what works for the committee
No,
members. And
I
that's kinda
understand.
how we fell in. And David Eckroth has been doing his thing for years. We've been doing our thing for years. You've been doing
Yeah, but
yours for
everybody does
years.
everything for years, and then we just like find a better way to do it because we have a town that needs to like know what's up, and then we have to get things out better. You can see it by the website or by what's going on with our warming center and whatever. So like without going into detail, we have a town board meeting tomorrow. That's another story. But just in the meantime, these two meetings, they always overlap, and I just want to know what's going on with kind of everything. I like to nerd out on our town. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, so I
Okay.
wrote, I made that a
So
note.
thank you.
I
That's my
can't, I
request.
can't, I
That's it
can't promise,
again.
I
Oh,
can't
okay.
promise, I can't promise we're fixing it, but I did make a note of it. Okay,
Yeah.
let me loop back to Jude though, who's our only other actual ZRC meeting, member
Yep.
on here. So,
Exactly.
so Jude, did you, and just the other thing that I just wanted to mention also is I did get the scenic overlay update to the planning board so that they can review it and confirm whether they are ready for it to go forward. So I did do that bit of homework that I was supposed to do. So now the other question is, I know you and I, Jude, have been talking about the fence thing. I can bring that up and we can try to take it further if you'd like to spend some time on that, just you and me as a work session.
Yes, yes, I'd like to move that forward. And actually, it's interesting that John is here as one of the original crafters of the zoning law, so it'd be interesting to get his input.
Oh, John, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah,
You, because I knew Ed Sanders was heavily involved, but you were also heavily involved?
yes. You're muted.
Yeah, you're on mute, John. And now your screen is down. We can't even read your lips.
Okay. This was in the late 80s, 86, 87, 88. There were 5
Right.
people on the committee and I was one of them.
Well, how do you like that? I thought you were, I pegged you as being younger than that.
Oh, you're giving away your age. Yeah, Richard Husted was part of it too.
Oh, okay.
Carol Harder, right? Ed and John Lewis, is that right?
I don't know,
John
John.
Lewis, Carol Harder.
Richard.
Richard was not on the committee. Who was the 5th person?
Carol Harder was, but I think Richard told me he was. Because he was on the ZBA then.
I'll ask Ed.
So again, you were, so Ed Sanders, well, John, of course, John Lewis, Carol Harder, who's unfortunately not with us anymore. And there was a 5th person, you say?
I think it was Richard.
Richard Husted. Huh.
Yeah, I think he was the chair of the ZBA back then.
Well, Richard Husted once upon a time was a county legislator, I think, right?
I think he did that too. He's been in town a while.
Yeah, he's been in town a while. So
I think he was a judge, actually, Judge Houston.
He's
I
still-
mean, there was a judge, there was
he
a
still
Judge
is.
Houston.
he's still a judge. He's still a judge. He's been a judge for a lot of years.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
got it, okay.
Okay,
it.
so John, just to give you a little background.
Oh, got it, okay.
Okay.
Well, see, that's a good sign. I don't have to go in front of a judge.
Um,
Yeah,
there-
we hope none of us have to go in front of a judge. So I'm just gonna pull up and boy, this gibberish thing, that's like amazing. I don't know what's up with that.
Can I
But-
give John just a little bit background of what we did, what we were working on?
Sure.
Maybe we
pulling
can
it up.
pull it up and discuss it. So recently, there seems to have been, well, I just gave you, how can I do this? Somebody recently put up an 8-foot electric fence on 70% of their property, which is about 19 acres. And it's in their front yard. They have 8-foot gates across their driveway. And apparently this is allowed under the zoning law. So I'm having a hard time imagining what reason anybody could have to have an 8-foot electric fence anymore in a residential area. So Laura, so this is something I would like to see changed in the zoning law. Laura, one of the things I did briefly before the meeting was I went and I looked at Red Hook and I looked at Marbletown just to sort of see what they had. And the interesting thing was I thought I would look at Red Hook because they do have agriculture still there. They do. And and you and I had discussed this, and I really feel like if somebody has a legitimate agricultural business, which I don't really think there's many of anymore in Woodstock, that's another story. This is now at this point, this is people wanting to exclude wildlife from their property. But as I said, I think it presents safety concerns. And also, if you want to think of it as a cultural or a sense of what our town is, if everybody starts throwing up these 8-foot electric fences, that's a really different feel for the town.
Right.
And what I
Totally.
think we hope to have. So the interesting thing that I saw in Red Hook is they don't allow anybody to have a fence taller than 6 feet that I can tell. But if you are an agricultural property and you are certified by New York State as being an agricultural enterprise, then you follow their laws for whatever the fences are. So maybe that's the way around it. If you have certification from New York State that you're running a business that's approved by the state, then maybe you get something. But I'm going to stick with my feeling that I don't see why we want to encourage that in Woodstock, that people have eight
Well, the-
8 foot high electric fences. These are not, these are pretty high voltage kind of fences. I don't think they
Right.
belong in residential areas. And so that's my take on it, and this apparently there are a few of them around. I didn't realize that in talking to William. He did say there are a few other ones around, and I just do not want to see this proliferating.
Are they 8 foot? Did he tell you how tall they are?
They're 8 foot, yeah.
So there are some 8 foot,
Yeah.
and I agree with you. I mean, electric fences are, why do we need them? What I will say, I know that what you said a minute ago was if it's an agricultural property certified in New York State, but I will tell you, like my stepdaughter who lives up in Catskill, but for a while she and her husband had chickens. So I kind of understand they're never going to be certified by New York State because they had chickens because they want to have their own eggs, So you may have people that have an agricultural desire that aren't certified because it's a private thing. However, yeah, like the 4-H or whatever isn't really agricultural, but somebody's into 4-H and they got a cow. But I agree with you 100% that we ought to restrict it. The way the law is nuts, because it pretty well says if you have if you want to protect your property from any animals, then you can have an 8-foot fence. Well, everybody's which like there's deer everywhere. So that pretty well says anybody can have an 8-foot electric fence. And I agree with you, that's nuts. So
Right.
I certainly agree with you that we ought to put boundaries around it. And we also don't want to have fortresses, because it's something Jude and I talked about offline. We don't want to have fortresses either in Woodstock, where somebody's got a whole big barricade and you drive down the street and you can't see the property at all because it's all barricaded. It's like who knows why they have to barricade everything. We want to be neighborly. So there are a couple of problems that the law allows that we'd like to fix.
So one of the other things I noticed was that, again, I just very quickly before the meeting took a look at a couple other laws.
Sure.
You do not allow stockade fences in front yards. You can have a post and rail, you can have a picket fence, you can have, a mesh, some kind of other kind of fence that you can see through, but you should not be blockading the front of your house. That's in some of the laws. I'm not going to suggest at this point that we change that. However, the 4-foot fence, that should remain. I wanted to bring up a couple other things. The chicken coop, that's a separate category. You're allowed to build up whatever you need to do to protect your chickens. That's it. That's in the law, I believe, the fence law. The other thing I just wanted to point out is, I was looking, I didn't double check any of this, but I told you I have a neighbor who has cows. She has a 4-foot electric fence.
Right.
Look at Sunfrost, and sometimes he strings wire. And they have, a lot of edible plants, right? I believe they're 4 feet,
Right.
maybe even 3 feet electric fences. A gallows, same thing. There's a nursery in Kingston. They don't even have a fence. So, so it's hard to justify. And as I mentioned to you, people have come to it.
Wait. Did you say Gallo?
Gallows,
Well, I've been to Gallows. They got a fence.
but they don't have an 8-foot electric fence. That's what
Well,
I'm
they don't
saying.
have an 8-foot electric fence, yeah. But if you go
Okay.
around the back and look at the trees they have in the back of the building, that they definitely have a fence. But I certainly would not. My recollection is not looking at an electric fence, but they certainly have a fence because they have lots of trees there, and otherwise the deer would have a
Right.
field.
No, I'm saying, but all I'm saying is, the
Electric
businesses
fence.
that we have in town, I don't see them with an 8-foot electric fence. That's all I'm saying. So
Right.
people who have a real financial concern, are not doing this. And then the other thing that, is people have come to us on the ZBA and, they want to keep the ticks out of their yard. And, as you and I have discussed, ticks travel on mice and
I'm
birds.
sure they try, yeah, right. Mice can get through anything.
Whatever. And it's like, so you're not going to keep the mice out with your 8-foot electric fence. And I apologize for all the dinging. Anyway, so, if we could take a look at that and just kind of maybe see if we can come up with something, because it would be really nice if we could get this done quickly and piggyback
Yes.
on the scenic overlay hearing, because it is, to me, it feels like a really important change, but it's pretty
Right.
minor. And I don't think it's going to apply to most people because most people aren't going to want to have this in their neighborhood. And, I think the other thing we have to consider here is that, I have children. I raised my children here, and they ran around the neighborhood, and all the kids did, and my kids stayed on my property. But
Right.
say, you know, they happen to wander close to the property line and somebody has some crazy electric fence. I mean,
And
there's
it's nuts. Yeah, it's nuts.
consideration.
So do we want to take a look and let, you know, and do we want to take a look at what you and I were looking at earlier? Because I have
Yeah.
the Word document. So let me pull that up and then people can kind of see what we're doing here.
Well, because I was looking at other laws, I also tossed something in the very last minute email to you about that plastic fence.
Right. Well, would you rather take another crack at it? Because you sent this and you and I have gone back and forth on some things. Would you rather take another crack at it and send another?
Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it because we've got a little bit of time and
Sure.
maybe we can come to some kind of resolution. I know we have to run it by Connor and Joe as well. I think that they probably will be in agreement. The reason somebody had mentioned this to me, that it was another fence that went up and it's plastic mesh. And you know, those are deadly for birds. And
Ah,
so,
yeah.
you know, and there was a town that said, no, you can't do that except if it's temporary, you know, if you're doing construction and you need to barricade something, or you need to protect something seasonally, but that should not be your permanent fence. And somebody actually did that recently.
Right, okay. So, anyway, so here's what you sent. And, you know, and the red was, of course, the changes that you had recommended. So, okay, so
Well,
what would you, go ahead, Jude.
no, I was just gonna say that one change, fruit and vegetable. I think that's just an easy, that's a no.
Right, it's an easy thing. So I just kind of take it from the top for anybody that hasn't looked at this yet. Fences, walls, and gates is one of the zoning sections in the zoning chapter. Except as otherwise provided in a residential that should not exceed 6 feet in height when erected in a rear or side yard, nor 4 feet in height like in a front yard. Height should be measured from the finished grade to the top of the fence. In light industrial should not exceed 8 feet in height. We don't have too many light industrial properties, but in any event, that's the word there. In any district, all fences and walls should conform to the requirements, blah, 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 as pertains to corner lots. So you can look at that section if you wanted that corner lots. And then D is the main meat of it. Fences and walls shall be permitted within the required front, side, and rear yard, except that fences and walls should be set back 5 feet from the edge of pavement or a ditch line when boarding public or private road, highway, shared drive, right of way. Fences and walls for the purpose listed below should be printed as follows, but shall not be located within the required front yard, nor within 20 feet of any lot line in R853 and L1, or LI rather, nor within 10 feet of any lot line in HC, HR, R5 R1.5 and neighborhood commercial, unless otherwise specified. All such fences shall be removed within 12 months of the termination of the use for which they are erected. So tennis court enclosure, no changes recommended there. Chain link fence permitted up to 10 feet in height. Swimming pool enclosure, fences permitted up to 6 feet in height. Enclosures to prevent animal intrusion or escape. And see, this is where the current law would allow anybody to put up an 8-foot electric fence, which in my opinion would be horrible, because we got deer everywhere. And if you say, well, I want to prevent the deer from jumping in, I get to have an 8-foot fence. You know, this kind of includes everybody. And the idea was to do some clarification so that, you know, so we're a little more clear about when it can and can't. So what we had said to prevent animal intrusion or escape, a vegetable and fruit garden enclosure, you know, fruits, you know, these days a tomato is classified as a fruit. So now you're saying yesterday I can keep the deer out of my tomato patch and today I can't because now it's a fruit. So it's just vegetable and fruit just says, hey, I think it was intended all along, but it just was never said. So we'll fix that while we're at it. Chain link or open mesh fence is permitted up to 8 feet in height. If it is to be less than 4 feet in height, it may be located within the front yard, within 20 feet of any lot line, blah, 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 built from material chosen, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, no such fence shall enclose a residence or other principal building. So if you're doing a vegetable or fruit enclosure, you're not going to enclose the whole residence or principal building. Electric fence enclosure, and I think that the whole thing, you know, we got A, B, I'm looking down to see C, livestock, and D, dog enclosure, and E, enclosure for fowl. So the phrase here for vegetable, no such fence shall enclose a residence or other principal building. Well, if you have a door, you know, I can't imagine why any fence ought to be allowed to enclose the residence. I do understand if you've got a chicken coop, you may want to be enclosing your whole chicken coop, or if you have a dog, you know, dog house in the back, maybe you want to enclose the whole dog house. But I guess I'm not sure why we want, this thing about no such fence shall enclose a residence. Why wouldn't we do that for all of these things? Why do we just want to say that if you're doing vegetable and fruit garden enclosure?
I think I agree with you. It should be for everything.
So I'm gonna,
Yeah.
so the first thing I'm gonna do, because this is just what I do, is
Well, you can, yeah.
I'm gonna I'm gonna do a file save as, because I don't want to change what you sent me.
Any insights, John? You're muted if you're talking.
Fences are complicated. I mean, while you've been talking, I've had so many questions. Are they getting building permits? Are they not getting building permits? Are building permits being issued for illegal fences? I just don't know.
Well,
And I don't
not-
know what should be allowed.
Oh,
And
they-
roosters are not allowed at all.
Is that true?
So, yeah, I had roosters next door to me for a couple of years and they had to get rid of
They're
them.
very much.
They're
Well,
just
you
not
know,
allowed.
When the Woodstock Animal Sanctuary was in Willow, they adopted what they thought were a whole flock of chickens. They all turned out to be roosters. You can imagine how happy the neighbors were.
Oh, gosh.
It's funny now. It wasn't funny it wasn't funny then.
But fences are complicated and they're going up more and more, and that's a good issue, and I don't know that we're gonna solve it here at this meeting.
Well, we're working out a proposal, and if we get a quorum of the zoning revision committee agreeing to put it forward to the town board, then we'll do that as soon as we can, because it's not a lot of words, it's not a lot of change, but it's a smart thing. And I appreciate, John, your input that you think that needs to get addressed.
Well, I agree with you, John. There's a lot more to it, but this is one that seems to me is a major safety issue. And yes, what happened, I don't want to maybe reveal anybody's identity here, but somebody did go and get a permit for this. And someone called me and just said, can you believe what just happened? Because not only did they surround their property with an 8-foot electric fence, a very large property, they then put up gates that were 8 feet tall, which I don't know if you've seen the ones that are by Cooper Lake, but they're pretty obtrusive, and they put those across the driveway. So, it looks menacing, in my opinion, which is not what I was hoping.
Electric fences are not supposed to be dangerous. They keep the deer away, but they're not supposed to harm humans. You're suggesting this one would harm a human.
I don't know what the voltage is, but I think if it's going to shock a cow, it might give you a bit of a shock.
Yeah, that's what I would think. How can electric fence possibly be a deterrent to an animal that is not human and not also be a problem for a human?
I think it has to do with pulsing it. It gives a pulse that's kind of a tickle that scares you away, but it's not going to harm you.
Well, it may not, it'll hurt.
Yeah, I would think.
Unless you're
It's a good
old.
question. I don't know.
Unless you're old or you have a seizure condition or something like that, and you just have to be like, there are lots of factors there. Also, I think that it's smart to consult with, like, if you're talking about making this widely available, that's really smart to talk to the bear committee about when you're talking about fences in general. When I was living at my former residence around the corner, I watched a bear totally lost, walking like Pac-Man lost across squared off fences and just breaking them and crying. It was a cub when we were in the drought. So like fences are really important to talk about when we're talking about zoning. Sure, anywhere we can help. Yeah.
Well, it definitely impacts wildlife. But aside from the fact how much
we don't have an environmental commission, so it's super important to talk about in zoning until we get back.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So I mean, I suppose if you have a pacemaker, it's probably not real good for you either. But that's not even okay. So it's also I can't quite grasp the word, but in terms of a community, is this really what we want?
Right.
Surrounding our properties is electric fences. It just seems so atypical of a residential area. And I don't see the need. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, 4 feet, if you do have a reason, if you have cows or pigs or whatever, I don't know what you would need it for, but there are reasons. And I also did mention to Laura that, if somebody comes along and all of a sudden they want to do, I can't imagine anyone's going to come here and start farming or doing anything. They can always go to the ZBA. And if they have, if they're legitimate reasons, of course they're going to get granted because it's going to protect their property. But this, excluding wildlife and, barricading yourself in and barricading yourself in visually, this is something that we're seeing a lot of in town now. People are coming here and they want to just block out everything. And in some cases, you're allowed to have those fences in your rear yards, and you are allowed, there's certain things you're allowed that I'm not interested in fighting that battle. But this one in particular seems to me particularly egregious. So that's
Yeah. So let me ask you one more question. Should we be saying, because you said another thing that earlier that might be something we might add, which is if you are an agricultural property certified in New York State, then you can follow the New York State law, because our law may be tighter than that. But should we put in here that if you are certified, an agricultural property is certified by New York State, that you can follow the New York State code, or you just want to leave that out and let them come to the ZBA with that if they want to?
I think they could just come to the ZBA with it. I just don't even see it as an issue at this point.
Oh,
And,
okay.
and whoever's doing it at this point, they already have it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I just
Right.
want to mention something else. Is there's a berry patch not far from here that has hundreds of blueberries, and they've never had a fence. We've got bear, deer, all kinds of things here, all kinds of animals. And we had talked about this apple orchards. If you have enough, a few deer are not going to destroy your whole crop.
Yeah. So, okay. So
right.
anyway, so moving right along. So I think I heard us agree that if you're enclosing to prevent animal intrusion or escape, no such fence shall enclose a residence, although there may be a reason to, but if you have a vegetable and fruit garden, then no such fence shall enclose a principal building, because you don't need to for a vegetable or fruit garden. Electric fence enclosure. So I put that in red here, and I just, I moved it from here to say, hey, it is true for all of these choices for animal. Electric fence enclosure, and these are what Jude had put in here: electric fence for agricultural, only permitted in R3, R5, and R8.
Right, like right now, they're allowed in the Hamlet residential, which is insane.
Well, that is insane. So, yeah, and so you say only permitted in. Oh, did you add R3, R5, and 8? Should we be highlighting that?
Yes, it should be in red. Yes,
That should be in red.
I took out in all districts. I thought I changed that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. No,
Except for the floodway.
we're a work session. We're a work in progress. We're good. Electric. Okay, so we've confined it to say the okay, electric fence for agricultural, blah 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 blah, only permitted in R3, 5, and 8. And 8. I should add districts.
I thought I thought I took out the X's for that. You know what I think happened? I didn't save it when I changed it. I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's okay. That's right. I'm gonna take out the strike through, and I'm gonna make this the word red. I think
That
that's
was there. The districts was there.
okay. So I'll leave it there.
And
Okay.
in all districts.
Okay.
Yeah.
So electric fence for agricultural, livestock, edible fruit, vegetable, grain, crop purposes only is permitted in R3, 5, and 8 districts, up to 4 feet in height, and not permitted in the required front yard. Yeah, anyway, area enclosed. And now you and I talked about this. You said area enclosed must not exceed 10% of the property. I would have thought that maybe 20%, but for electric fence, like I mean, who knows what somebody's going to need it for? I mean, 10%, if somebody has 10 acres, then they could do 1 acre. If somebody has 5 acres, they can do half an acre. So I just didn't know whether but because what I've heard about people in the ZBA, and maybe it's different because people come and go, but I've heard people in the past from the ZBA say that when the ZBA is going to approve something, they don't approve, they normally are not approved, and you would know better than me, so I'll say what I've heard, and Jude, you can correct me. But I've heard that they don't approve very much. If the zoning law says something, they're not likely to approve it. Mostly what they approve is property, are you far enough away from your property line? If your neighbor says, oh, it's fine with me that you're closer to the property line, that the ZBA will approve that, but the ZBA is hesitant in most cases to approve something that the zoning law says this, and they approve that. So my worry about that is, even though you keep saying they can go to the ZBA, I have heard that pretty much all the ZBA approves is if you want to be closer to the property line than the zoning law lets you, and your neighbor says, okay, they'll approve that. But they don't rewrite zoning law. If something's in the zoning law, even though you go to the zoning board of appeals to say, I don't want to follow the zoning law, still the ZBA, from what I understand, is very careful to abide by the zoning law unless you get these cases that aren't going to hurt anything. So I think 10% is a little tight. I know but 30% is too much.
Well, so the whole point of the ZBA is that people are looking for a exception to the zoning law, right? And there are people who have very good reasons, and when we see those, we grant them. As you know, there are a lot of undersized lots in Woodstock, and a lot of people have limitations with setbacks and things like that. And if it's a reasonable and ordinary use, we tend to grant it. There are sometimes, we've been getting a lot of applications of, people who want 6-foot fences in their front yard, and we are pretty consistent in saying, that's not what the town wants to look like. And
Right.
an example that I give all the time of a place where the ZBA, I wasn't on the ZBA at this point, but they gave a variance for a 6-foot fence in a front yard, was that house that's next to Rotron. That makes perfect sense because they are adjacent to, essentially, I think we talked about this, essentially, they're adjacent to a commercial property where people.
Right, pretty much, right, yeah.
That's where you make an exception. It's not, just because I want to, I don't like the
Right.
law. And, and let me just also say, while I'm here, saying no to people is really hard to do.
Yeah, well, but I guess, so why did you think 10%, because 10% does seem strict to me. I mean, 20% seems a little more comfortable to me. 10% seems a little strict to me. So if it said 10%, I'd be saying, yeah, go for it. And I don't have a crystal ball, but still 10% seems strict to me.
Okay, well, I guess I would rather not see them, unless somebody really has a reason to have them. I mean, if you want to.
Well, but here's the reason. We've said you have to have a reason.
Right. So something further down, there was something, I'm trying to scroll on your document here. There was something about if you're in this district, you can have this percentage, and if you're in this district, you can have, where was that? It was a little further down in a different category. And maybe we have to differentiate that, like if you're in where did I see it?
Right, here it is. If you're more than 1 acre of size, the enclosed area must not exceed 10%. Chain link or open mesh, this is for the dog enclosure. Chain link or open mesh fence is permitted up to 6 feet in height. Area enclosed must not exceed 20% of the property if 1 acre or less. If the property is more than 1 acre in size, the area enclosed must not exceed 10%. So I mean, this is something, so I'm just thinking 20%, but and unless we did this kind of thing where if it's 1 acre, you don't exceed 20%. And if it's more than 1 acre, then it can't exceed 10. But it just seems.
This is okay. I don't think we want to necessarily get stuck here, but I would like to do a little more research and find out what people are actually doing and who's using them.
Well, and what they need it for, because if you're going to have agricultural, if you're going to have edible fruit, if you're going to do some vegetables and you want to have your own vegetable garden, but you want to be you want to plant enough that you can sell, you want to go to the Woodstock Farmers Market and you want to say, hey, here's my, you want to have a booth there.
An acre is a really big piece of property, just so you know.
Not really.
You're growing your own little garden, an acre?
What's that?
An acre?
No, but if you have an acre of property, right, and then you're saying you can only have 10% of that on your
So maybe we do what that says and say, if you have a certain amount of property, you get 20%, and then I'm not gonna get stuck on this because I just want to keep them out of front yards and keep them. And then the other thing that I didn't add in here is the distance from the property line. And I think we want to maybe look at that too.
Mhm. Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well, well, I think that it should be, and is that not, I think it may be up here, though, that governs everything.
It was, what it had said was, couldn't be, it had to have a 20-foot distance from the front yard. I think that's all it said.
Well, hang on, I thought that I saw something. Shall be permitted as follows, shall not be within the required front yard, nor within 20 feet of any lot line. So you've already said that for all fences. So
Okay.
it's already covered for all fences, 20 of any lot line in R8, 5, 3, and LI, nor within 10 feet if you have a smaller lot.
We're not even letting it go in those. So that's fine then. Okay, 20,
Yeah.
that's reasonable, I guess.
Okay, are you saying I can make this 10 or 20?
Sure.
I heard a muffled answer, I couldn't tell.
I guess, I mean, I guess if you have a 20-acre parcel, it's better to, or this case, it was a 25-acre parcel, it's better to exclude 5 acres than to exclude 19. It just seems like a lot still to me.
Well, yeah, but some people maybe only have an acre and some people maybe only have 5 acres. So, I mean, I would think that if you're in, maybe the answer is if you're in R3 or R5, it's 20%, but if you're in R8, if your property is, I mean, I do kind of think that if you're up to 3 acres, maybe you get 20%. And if you're higher than that, then you're maybe 10%, or graded. If you're higher than that, maybe you're 15%. But then if you have,
Right.
if you have up to 3 acres, you're 20%. If you're 3 to 5, maybe you're 15%. And if you're higher than 5, maybe you're 20%. So it would seem that a gradation
Might make sense.
might make sense.
I think most people are going to have trouble meeting this criteria. So
They don't need that much is what you're saying.
I'm just saying, they're just not that, I don't see much agriculture in Woodstock anymore.
Right.
I mean, that's the reality.
Well, so I'm just gonna, I'm just gonna, let me try 20% of the property, of a property when the property is, what is 5 less. Well, I mean, do you want me to do the 20, 15, 10, or do you want me just to do, I would do 20 at 3 acres, 15 for 3 to 5, and then 10 if you're at 8 acres. Or just,
Sure.
okay, 20%.
Fine, I mean, that,
Yes,
yeah.
okay. Well, we're
Again, if somebody really has a need, they live someplace that they, I mean, who has that kind of cleared land anymore also? They can always come to the ZBA. I mean, I'm sorry if people have the impression that the ZBA is not accommodating, but we say yes a lot more than we say no. Probably 80-20 to yeses to nos.
Okay, and I had to put this in red.
Yeah.
10%.
Sorry again to interrupt. Just as a neighbor and just as we're thinking of putting things into percentages instead of like looking at something visually, could I just say, we're talking about fences, we're talking about looking at things visually. I live next to a flipped house that has an unshoveled sidewalk and walkway, and they put up a fence. They put up a fence on this shared access road, that you can't see anything anymore. They also mowed down all the trees all the way to the back of the property that butts our town office, right? And then next to that, and they're never home. I mean, they have 3 children. I was so excited to save our school. And then next to that, there's another fence, little hop skip to the fence I gripped onto walking on that icy sidewalk, ripped off maybe a nail out of that fence. Don't ask, don't tell. And because they also don't live there, it's the side of their house. But I've never seen a human being there. Like once I saw maybe they were renting the place out. I don't know if it's an STR legally or illegally, but that's a fence, an unkempt fence before I get to the other not really sidewalk. And then we have business owners. I don't know if this is still in business, new business that doesn't shovel their sidewalk. So let's talk about where the fences are already. When you're talking about a percentage, think about what it's going to look like. You're talking about a percentage.
Well,
rather
sure,
than
sure. But fences that already exist are going to stay where they are. They're grandfathered. So this is going to affect new fences going up. This is, as Jude is indicating, we have a lot of people moving to town that think, oh, now I want a fortress out my property. And that's not what Woodstock wants. And we're just trying to make it clear that that's not what Woodstock wants. And the other thing, and getting back to Jude here, is do we want to add something? Because I did, this is part of what we had said. As you said, consider adding this section, and I'm going to go back to the Word document we're working on. So do we want to do something about what you said here about the installation of fences? How do we want to merge this in? Because I
Right.
agree with you.
Well, this is something else that came up, and somebody just put up one of these mesh things, plastic, and just attached it to trees. Didn't even put up posts, just nailed
Right.
it to trees.
Mhm.
You know, it's disastrous to wildlife. And
What do you want to take? I can send back to you what we've just worked on here. And do you want me to send it to you as we have it? And then you figure out where this should be merged in? Because it may take us a while to try to do it as a group.
right. Well, if you could look at it and see if you agree with it, we can
Well,
plot for it.
yeah, I did look at it, but
Makes sense.
let me reread it. Flexible plastic, vinyl mesh, or the non-rigid material in a constructed manner without post and support is prohibited in all districts. This type of material may be used as a similar protective battery and temporary basis if being used in conjunction with site development or construction work. The material should be removed prior to the issuance of this. Yeah. A natural burlap or black plastic or vinyl fashion employed on a seasonal basis. I mean, we can take this in, to protect natural landscaping from snow, deer, other damage. Is allowed and not considered to be a fence within the meaning of law. The use of more visible color mesh and other durable materials are prohibited for this purpose. And then we're thinking the natural plastic employed a seasonal basis and then removed. Right. So I'm okay. Let me just.
I might take. I don't know why you would remove it if it was deer. I would take away the deer, and just
Hang on. So I'm gonna copy this, and then the big question is, where does it belong? Because that's in, because the way the law is, we've got A, B, C, D, and then we've got the details about the different types of fences. So do we want, is this a general statement that belongs regarding all fences? Or is this go in with enclosure to prevent animal intrusion or escape? Is that where that belongs? But we want it anyway, right? We want to say that for all fences,
I
this
think
is
so.
say
Yeah.
all fences.
For
So
all
that,
fences. Yeah, I would take out the deer because I don't think that's a seasonal use. But people do, put up barriers to protect their especially when they have screening by the road, so it doesn't get hit by the
okay.
plow. or it doesn't-
So here we go. So like here we have barbed wire fences prohibited in all districts, and here we have stuff that's general for everything. Any
Okay.
fence, wall, or gate erected in the accordance to the sections will be maintained in good order. So I think I'm going to put it the height of gates shall not. Okay. So I'm gonna put it after the barbed wire.
I like it there. You know, and then I just want to point out to Sarah, there is something in the zoning law that says what we just went, I can't see it anymore, but they have to be maintained in good order.
Oh, yeah, it was the bottom thing.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
Sarah, you know, make notes.
Okay.
It was,
That's well engaged, you know,
yeah, it's-
erected, maintained.
it's item F here, which item F is gonna become item G, because we're adding, this is gonna be F. So let me just say F. And let's underscore F.
I was just thinking of an opportunity, like a positive opportunity while you were discussing, like if someone had the purpose of privacy, what a great bridge to be able to work with another committee for, you know, increasing pollinators here as we're building and we need to increase housing here, maybe, you know, depending on which direction people are going to go, to just educate them on other ways, you know, besides just building a fence. And just increasing communication here.
Yeah.
That I always want.
Well,
Yeah,
one of
it's always a good thing. So,
Yeah.
so I'm
Well,
I'm rereading,
That's it.
whoops, hang on a sec. Let me, whoops. Trying to fix this here.
Yeah, it didn't line up when I copied this from another town
Yeah,
law.
that's okay.
Okay, so
Um,
I want to take out the deer though.
Yeah, well, let's kind of do one thing. So the installation of fences consisting of flexible, and let me fix the typo here. The installation of fences consisting of flexible plastic, vinyl mesh, or any non-rigid material, and constructed in a manner without posts, and supports of the type associated with permanent construction is prohibited in all districts. So if you use it and you don't have posts and support, so what you're saying is you're okay if somebody does have posts, you're okay with flexible plastic, vinyl mesh, and a non-rigid material if they have posts.
No, I'm not.
What's that?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, but that's what you're saying, though. The
So-
installation, let me just, I just separate this out. The installation of fences consisting of flexible plastic, vinyl mesh, or the non-rigid material and constructed in a manner without posts and supports. But you're saying, and construct, you're saying if you're flexible plastic, vinyl mesh, and you don't have posts, then you're prohibited, which means, oh, if I do it with posts, it must be okay. So what you're saying is you don't care whether they have posts, you want it to be prohibited regardless. By saying and, you have an and in here.
I think it should be prohibited, yes. But you know, but I'm reading on because what it says, sorry, because I'm looking at a laptop. So when you share your screen, it is so tiny. I have to crawl right up to my screen. The type of
Okay.
material may be used in a situation. This type of material may be used in a situation in a siltation fence.
Right, a silt fence. You
Well,
can
the
use it for
people
silt
often
fence,
do-
which is temporary.
Right, snow fences and things like that.
Well, silt fence is when you're doing construction and
Right.
you're doing ground stuff with the ground, you want to put the silt fence up so that something's downhill and you got mud and dirt going down the hill. You don't want to go in the neighbor's yard. You put the silt fence up, and that keeps stuff when you're doing construction from going in the neighbor's yard. And then when you're done with the construction, you remove the silt fence. So a silt fence is it's a silt fence. That's what a silt fence is. It's meant to be used for construction. It's meant to be temporary. You finish the construction, you remove the silt fence, and it tends to be kind of you know, I don't know whether it's vinyl or mesh or what, it's like a mesh thing. It's not a solid fence, it's a mesh thing, but it does keep materials from flowing into the neighbor's yard. They don't roll downhill in the neighbor's yard. You got this fence up, so while you do construction, things aren't rolling in the neighbor's yard. So that's what a silt fence is, and that's fine. So if you want to use a siltation fence or similar protective barrier employed on and installed on a temporary basis in conjunction with site development, that's exactly what a silt fence is. This makes sense. This material shall be removed prior to issuance and certificate of compliance by the building department. That's a perfect statement. You want to put up a silt fence because you're doing it for construction, but you can't finish your construction without that, you know, the silt fence has to go before you're approved as being complete.
Right.
So that this sentence all makes sense. But this up here, if you're saying you never want flexible plastic, vinyl mesh, or non-rigid material, then you need to say that period rather than saying and without posts. Because if you say and without posts, then if somebody says, well, I put up posts, so therefore I can have my vinyl fence.
How about or?
Well, but or oh, you mean, or if you have any fence that doesn't have posts and supports. Of
Yeah.
a fence consistent or a fence that is constructed, let me just try here, or a fence that is constructed in a manner without posts and supports of the type associated with permit construction is, yeah, I'm okay with the or, if you like that.
Okay, I'd like to look at it again, like I said. I'm having trouble.
Well, I'll send it out.
Yeah,
So,
no, good.
anyway, but then we say, going to say this type of material maybe uses a siltation fence, which makes sense to me, because that's what a silt fence is. It's kind of a see-through, and is temporary.
Mm.
And then we go on to say natural burlap or black plastic or vinyl fence, mesh fence employed on a seasonal basis to protect natural landscaping from snow. You want to take out the deer because deer are there all year round, right?
Mhm.
But how is, but what I do want to say, and I do this at home actually, is when I do have on the side of my house, I do have rhododendrons. And if I don't block them off, and I don't do it with a mesh fence, I actually use a dog fence that is, it's not a permanent fence, but I have a dog fence that's in pieces and I carry it over. And when before the snow falls, right before the snow falls, I put this dog fence around my rhododendron, because if I don't, the deer eat the entire thing in the winter. And then what I do is in the spring, when the rhododendron's about to bloom, I take the fence away, because from that part of the season, from about May, towards the end of May up through October, the deer leave it alone because they have plenty of things to eat. But if I don't cover it up from October to May, it is decimated. It is a deer resistant bush and they eat every leaf. And luckily the thing has come back. So the point being, the deer, there is a seasonal reason. I do it seasonally. I have to protect that only in the winter, because in the winter, the deer will decimate the thing. And it's not like a huge fence. I mean, this is just, I just lean this up against the house basically. So, but there is a seasonal part of deer,
Gotcha.
and I do that at home.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess we could tinker with that a little bit. I'm thinking we don't want permanent structures. Understand that sometimes you put things up temporarily, but
And we need to say and removed, employed on a seasonal basis, then removed at the end of the season.
how many seasons?
Well,
Yeah.
on a seasonal basis, then removed at the end of the season. Well, and people can figure that out.
Mhm.
But that's the point. It's got to be removed at the end of the season, which means it's not a permanent. So natural burlap or black plastic or vinyl fence mesh fence. I think we need a word here. Natural burlap or black plastic or vinyl fence. The vinyl fence mesh fence. Is this another or? We need an or.
Yeah.
Okay. Natural burlap or black plastic or vinyl fence or mesh fence employed on a seasonal basis, then removed at the end of the season.
You need to put a date on that and keep
How
the
about
website posted. No way.
how about must be removed
Um,
rather than then?
okay, well, hang on. I'm just going to put it in a different seasonal basis. Is allowed. Okay, that's within the this law. As long as it is removed at the end of the season. Oh, okay. I know it's slightly mushy, and the season is kind of like the winter, the wintry or whatever. But I think that the whole point is you can't keep it up for a whole year. You can keep it up for the time frame needed, but it won't be the whole year and it won't be permanent.
All right, well, we can fool with that, because that one I just sprung on you like an hour ago.
Yeah, okay. And the use of more visible color mesh and the other more durable products are prohibited for this purpose. So what do you mean by the more durable materials?
I have no idea.
And the use of more visible color mesh, I mean, do you care what color the mesh is?
Red, orange.
But do you
I-
care?
I could see how that could be unattractive if it's in a front yard.
Well, sure, but the use of more visible color mesh and more durable materials are prohibited for this.
And more durable materials. There must be some synthetic thing they're referring to. I have no
Well-
idea.
Well, I know you pull this from somebody else's law, right?
Yeah, it could be, I don't even know. I got to think about that. You know, I suppose there's all kinds of products out there that could be colorful.
Right, but you're only letting it be up for a season and this is what you
Yeah.
had, this is what was on sale, I
Right.
bought this.
Mhm.
So, I mean, neutral colors are preferred, is that what we're saying? Like black, brown, tan? But are you gonna prohibit somebody from getting a red mesh fence up if that's what they bought?
I don't really, that's not something that's not the hill I'm gonna die on.
Yeah, so I guess this sentence here, I'm not sure whether, or other more durable materials, I'm not sure what you mean by other more durable materials.
You know, this is what I see in different laws. Things like this show up because somebody did something that really was not liked. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like somebody didn't never imagine that someone would do something that was so atrocious and somebody did it. So they threw this sentence in there. That's how I see somehow how some of these things occur in laws, you know?
But I guess I wonder, yeah. So on the one hand, we might keep it in just because we have a gut feel somebody somewhere had an issue and the sentence helped them out to solve the issue. On the other hand, I would think if we took, I would have a hard time defending that sentence because we don't really know what it means. And, we don't want, and the thing about Woodstock, there's a balance between some creativity that people want to have versus, we don't all, this is Woodstock, right? We want to be freewheeling thinkers. We don't all want to be, shoved in a little, square peg in the round hole. We don't need to all be uniform here in Woodstock, and somebody has a orange fence, this orange mesh they put up just for the season and then it comes down. Do we really want to scream about that? I don't know. But I hear what you're saying. There's something,
Probably not.
yeah. So can I take out that sentence? Or do you think it's an important
I'll
sentence?
take it out. I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Well,
And we can
we
always
need to
add
make
something.
sure-
If we have a problem, we can add something later because we had a
And
problem.
you know, I would just, like I said, like to read it again and make sure that it says what we wanted to say. But
Yeah.
again, it's something that happened.
Sure.
that somebody-
Yeah,
Somebody else pointed out to me and just said, that's just terrible for wildlife, for birds.
sure.
And
Sure.
they put it up as a fence. And it
Well, so do we want to put any, I mean, do we want to put any boundaries of how big it can be? Because here's another case where if you're putting up some temporary fence, it shouldn't be an acre. It shouldn't, here's where a tenth of an acre, here's where I wouldn't care if it said a tenth of an acre or less. I mean, we ought to have some idea of how big the area is, because this is not a permanent fence. You're just trying to protect some stuff. So is this a case where we want to talk about how much of your property you can put it on? Here I would say, yeah, 10%, 5%, it should be able to be, although I have to tell you, and maybe you want to do this, as we consider what this ought to be, you might want to drive down, Whitney Drive, right? If you were to drive down Whitney Drive and kind of at the halfway point, because Whitney Drive is like a horseshoe, it hits Witch Tree twice. And somewhere around the halfway point, if you're looking at the even numbers are on one side of the street, right? The odd numbers on the other side of the street. If you're looking at the even number side of the street, there is a lady who has really done a great job with the front yard. She's really planted it up like crazy. And I think she's got like a mesh fence. And so I never want to hurt anybody when we do these laws. But on the other hand, and it probably takes up, because it's like her whole front yard. I don't know how much property she has in the back. So, and I think she's got it up all year. I don't think she ever takes it down because she's keeping the deer out. And, so I kind of wonder what my question is. I wonder what her solution would be. So as we do this law about fences, and we're doing it for all the right reasons, and we might say, well, she's grandfathered because she already did it. But on the other hand, she is trying to keep the deer out. She is trying to really have a green thumb and really have beautiful plants in her front yard. But we all know the deer are going to eat them. And she's put up this thing that I think is not a solid fence. I think it's mesh. And when somebody wants to do that, do we want to prohibit that by what we're writing here? Or if what she's doing is really okay, do we want to do, I might be interested, Jude, if you were to drive by, again, she's about halfway down Whitney Drive. She's on the even number side of the street. And I know she's trying to beautify her property. She's trying to do the right thing. And I don't even know how many acres she has. But
So
if
we
we,
would just ask you if she's got it in her front yard, how tall is the fence? Because you're only allowed 4 feet in your front yard.
well, it's a really good question, and I don't mean to turn her in because she's a nice lady.
I don't do that. I don't
Yeah.
do.
But it's just that I know I'm thinking of somebody who's trying to do the right thing. And anyway, so here's what we have written now. We can incubate, but if you had a chance, if you were driving around someday, drive down Whitney Drive, and I'm sure you'll see what I'm talking about. And see what you think. And there may be more than just the one property where people, again, they try to beautify their front yard, and they also try to protect it from the deer. And not everybody's got a fence. So, so anyway, we're gonna incubate this, and I'll drive around, you'll drive around, and we'll figure out, we need balance is always the thing I always say is, have we hit the right balance with this?
Well, again, we can't write the law for the few exceptions. We want an overall view of what the town should be. So I will definitely go look, and and this is normally these materials are used in a temporary way, but I'll definitely see what she's done.
Yeah. And I would say she's about halfway down, right? She's not at one end or the other. If you're on Whitney Drive, it's like a horseshoe, but it's kind of like you pass one house, and then you have a 90-degree turn, and then you drive for half a mile, and then you're at another 90-degree turn, and then you're at the end of the road. So once you've made a 90-degree turn, you drive about halfway before you hit the other 90-degree turn. And in the middle is Violet Place. So you're on Whitney Drive, it's a horseshoe, hits twice, but Violet Place hits it in the middle. So when you get to Violet Place, you might have just passed this property. Because Violet Place in the middle. So all right. Well, I think we have a good idea of what we want, and it's making sense.
Yeah.
And I've never looked at what this neighbor has done and said, oh, that's bad. I mean, I know, she's got a lot of stuff planted. It's pretty cool. I forget how tall it is. That's a good question. And maybe because it's not a solid fence, maybe I have no idea. Did she get a building permit? Didn't she get a building permit? It's kind of, it looks kind of temporary-ish, but I'm not sure if she takes it down in the winter, but it does have poles. So anyway, we can kind of compare notes on that.
I'll take a look.
Yeah.
And I'll keep my eye out, because you do spot things. But like I said, one of the things that happens is that we have things that come to us that we're like, oh, we never thought anybody would do that.
Well, sure.
And then you're like, oh my goodness, didn't anticipate that one. And that happens. And this is happening more and more.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to send this to the ZRC and just mention that you and I had a work session, and we got some feedback from others on the call. And okay, so I'm going to stop sharing, but I will send this to everybody, and we can hopefully get this going. So I know I often ask at the end, and we've overrun because we've been an hour and a half, and we like to quit at an hour and a half. But I do always like to go ahead, Jude.
Before you do that, I might also want to run this by Butch and William, just to sort of get their take.
Well, I will, but I'll be sending it to what I just updated. I'll send this version to you, Connor and Joe, and asking for everybody's input. And you're certainly taking it to Butch and William is perfect.
Yeah, I'm just curious what, because they're out there in the field and
Sure.
see a lot of things. So we'll see what they say too.
Yeah, sounds perfect.
Oh, and the other thing I wanted to just mention quickly is that I spoke to William about Granicus.
Oh.
Yeah, and that was my original assignment, and he says it's working really well for them.
Oh, good.
And I don't think we talked about the additional modules, and they said, well, first of all, they're very expensive, and secondly, they don't think that they need them. So, but I think it's been extremely helpful. He showed me kind of what it looks like. There's a map, and they track things, so they know. What they don't know is, for example, how many people are in the short-term rental, but they do, I think they track the cost, they track the number of days, they, you know, they track a lot of things. But anyway, but they are using what's coming from the county and finding it very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, I'm just making notes here. Okay, excellent. That's excellent feedback. Thanks. Okay, so I always like to ask if anybody, I know Sarah has spoken up. I know people did speak up. The gibberish, the gibberish in the STR files definitely needs to get corrected. Besides that comment, and we have run long, so people can be brief in what they say, but I always do like to ask if anybody has anything they want to add. So,
It's
does
nice
any-
to have a chance to agree with Jude on something. I'm pretty much anti-fence. I don't like, I
yay,
certainly don't like giant mansion fences trying to look like there's some compound from the Dallas TV show or something. So,
right,
yeah,
yeah,
that's not the town I want to be part of, and also concerned about wildlife being able to move across, you know,
yeah.
across
that was
yards.
funny, Michael.
It sounds good. Okay, anybody else have any comments they'd like to add before we close?
Yeah, so just overall, while we're talking a lot about these issues, I'm just thinking about how everything fits in from a lot of these committees and commissions I'm observing, and literally two tonight, and just how they're reacting, and David thinking that you guys are all sitting together right now in another room, but we don't have another quorum, and like, so this isn't recorded. I actually feel kind of uncomfortable saying this, but I know this isn't recorded. It's not going to be out on YouTube.
Oh, it is recorded. I can
Oh.
put it on YouTube. It's recording. The top of my screen says
All right, so
recording.
maybe I feel uncomfortable saying this, but I kind of must, because I've been in this position. And I mean, there's a person who has an address out there right now where you're like asking somebody to drive by. So it feels like I've been in that position before, where it doesn't matter about her fencing, but it's like encouraging people to judge someone by what they are doing in their lives, or how they are interacting with our town, or how they might be, I think actually yourself as a person needs to go to other committee and commission meetings, because that's how you're going to learn more about what's going on. And I want everyone to do that. I don't think I have an excessive amount of time in my life, but somehow I find it. I see John at other meetings a lot, and I'm glad, John Ludwig. And but we need to understand what's going on, like in this interlocking way when we're talking about fencing. If we learned about how the tree committee could help in that way, and also how we could encourage pollinators to come in while we're worried about a Xena project and this other, building project coming in that might disrupt our wildlife, where do they go? And also we have an influx of people, like how do we welcome them and also discourage them from doing these other things? That happens with communication. Boom. So sorry to take too much time, but that's a lot. But someone was soft doxxed. I was straight up doxxed before, and that's just kind of what that felt like. Sorry to say that.
It's okay.
I get your point, Sarah. And normally we don't do that. And I do see your point, and I'd like to talk about
Yeah.
locations publicly. So upon
Yeah.
I took it
And the thought about-
seriously.
But the thought
Um,
about driving by,
but the
Sarah, I just want to answer Sarah. So the thought about driving by is not so that we think somebody's done something wrong, but to say it's a litmus test, as we recommend what the law might say. And there's somebody who I think is doing things for the right reasons. We don't want to prohibit people from doing things for the right reasons. So I don't feel like I don't
Well,
believe that I was saying that there was an issue with the person, but I am saying we'll have an issue if we build a law that doesn't let somebody who's doing the right thing still do the right thing. That's the
Then
issue.
don't look for trouble, Laura. Then don't look for trouble and don't point it out. Have a private discussion with Jude behind the scenes, and then look for the next thing to prevent. Let's progress. Let's progress as a time. We've been stuck here so long. Our board is stuck 3-2 every single time. You're a sitting board member, and I would love to progress right now.
Well, yes, but then on the other hand, people say, be transparent. Here I am transparent, and you're saying
I'm glad, but not that transparent. I don't need to know what color your underwear are today or socks.
Well,
Thank you.
yeah.
Like
So,
that.
so anyway, I hear,
So
I hear
let's,
what you're
that's
saying.
that raw to me. It is because I do go to every meeting.
Yeah.
So I don't want to, let's not get more abrupt. I said I've been doxxed in front of our town. I've been told to shut my mouth at a meeting that hasn't had minutes since 2020. I went there to get an agenda tonight.
Well, so
I'm
anyway,
here. I
thank-
appreciate you. I appreciate all the work so much. I really do. I just want more communication. Thank you so much. for what
All I
you're-
want to say is that zoning is all about land use.
Yes.
It's land use.
Yeah, and those fences, but everything touches the other, because that land use it's going to be changed because there's going to be wildlife breaking in. I think into the future of it. I think about, we don't have an environmental commission right now that could weigh in on things. They're gone. And that's a big change in our town. We don't,
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. So thank you for that. So thanks. John,
I'm going to shut my mic off. I appreciate all your time and this meeting so much.
Okay, thanks. Okay, John, did you have anything else you wanted to weigh in besides comments you've already made? Okay, you're good. Heather, yeah,
No, thank you.
Okay, thanks, John. And thank you, and John, I'm really happy to learn now that you've been a member, that you remember the original zoning committee, because that's good to know. And it's nice to be able to bounce ideas off, because you know what was thought of, what the original intentions were. And it's nice to have somebody we can talk to. I'll talk to Ed, of course, I talk with Ed Sanders quite a bit, who's another good person to bounce things off of, to say, hey, what was the original intention? But it's nice to know more people that would know the original intention. So that's helpful.
Thank you.
John was also the chair of the planning board.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that. I was on the planning board. You preceded me.
He preceded me too.
Until I think 92 is when something like 1980 to 92, something like that.
Wow. Wow. You must have been 16 at the time.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Because I think I got on when he got off. I think your seat was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So anyway, we'll move to Heather. Heather, was there anything that you wanted to chime in on? Oh, we have Heather on mute, so she might, maybe she stepped away, maybe not. Okay. And just as a reminder, and just to wrap up the recording, this was indeed a work session. We did not finalize any decisions at this session. We will, decisions will only be finalized with a quorum of the zoning revision committee, but we have moved along in a work session fashion, a document that we are considering, but we have made no final decisions at this meeting. It was a work session. But I appreciate everybody joining. I think we had an extremely productive work session, and there we are. So
Laura, it's Heather. I just wanted to quickly chime in and just say that I think all those comments are really helpful for the STRs, because I think we can make sure that the legislation that gets written addresses those concerns, about bad behavior and things like that. So I'm really glad to see, be able to get access to that information and review it. So thank you for making that public.
Yep. Well, and I'll try to get rid of the gibberish, because if you try to download it today, it might not be very helpful. So
Right.
we'll try
But
to
I'm
get
optimistic that it's going to be helpful information. So thank you.
Yeah. And I do still plan to continue what I was doing, which is pulling together my own view of it. But then people can, adjust the view, because if there's something that I missed, I'm certainly, because the whole goal is to try to make it simple for people. That's why, I took the actions I already took with the file, and I'll try to build a list of what the main comments. But you've raised an excellent point, Heather, that a lot of the things we've seen, we may be able to resolve. We may be able to kind of solve what everybody's, the pros and the cons, if we may be able to find a good solution. And the comments, I think, are very helpful.
Yeah, I just think we want to write a law that's enforceable and effective at getting to the outcome that we're trying to get to, not just random willy-nilly stuff that's hard to enforce and things like that.
Right.
I think the clarity, and I think again, going to those concerns that people have, of course, there's got to be some kind of violation procedure for people that are making noise and other complaints. So again, I think we can draw a lot of helpful information from that. So thanks for doing the survey, and thanks for sharing it. And hopefully we can get a ungibberish copy soon. So thank you. And thank you for everybody for all your hard work.
Yeah. And I thank Jude because Jude did a ton of work on making that survey happen. So I thank Jude for the, I was a cheerleader, but Jude really did the legwork. So thanks to Jude for all that.
Were you able to reach out to Kai yet to see if he could
Oh,
come
you
talk?
know what? Did I reach out to Kai? That's a very good question. Well, I did not yet reach out to Kai. It's on my list and I'll add it. I'll re-add it to my list
Okay.
to see if yeah. But I have to tell you though, we need a quorum. So I'm going to need to have Connor and Joe say they're definitely going to be here because if I got Kai coming, so I'll need to verify with Joe and Connor their availability over the dates that I sent out.
Right. Joe texted, and I think to all of us, and said that he has the dates in his calendar. And
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll send it. I'll send an email to the to everybody on the ZRC and just make sure they can come.
yes, so we can move forward. Do you think that in order, once we get the language set for the fences, do you think that's something we can agree to online? Do we have to have a
Yes.
meeting?
Yeah, I'm happy with that. If we have a quorum online, we've had a very open discussion here. People know where we're going, unless we have a huge twist. But I think that unless we have a huge twist in the direction, I think I'm comfortable if we have a quorum saying online they like the direction. Or I mean, it would be possible to add a meeting if people wanted to add a meeting, say like in a week.
Right.
It could be possible to add a meeting. So
Right.
so we'll see what people think they want to do.
Okay, great, perfect, thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. And thank you for all this work you're doing with the sorting and the organizing. And
Well,
that's a big job.
But
So,
well, it's a team effort. Is it? Yeah, you've been carrying a huge load, and I'm trying to carry. So we're each carrying different loads, and that's teamwork.
and one of the things I just wanted to say is I looked at things when they originally came in, and I felt like people were very thoughtful in their comments. Like if they disagreed and they thought they were a terrible thing, they might try to find something positive to say. I thought it was very very Woodstock, but it was also nice, that it's not
Yeah.
just angry or defensive, or
Yeah.
everybody was trying to be really thoughtful about it and look at it. So it was pretty good that way.
Yeah, I agree. A very, very thoughtful comments, and I think comments, and just like Heather said, the comments that will help us, they'll help guide us as we try to hit the right note.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, good. Good night.
Thank you, everybody. We're good to go, and we will talk in 2 weeks.
Good.
But I'll send some stuff out to everybody. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, bye-bye.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Hey, everybody.